baseball 2022. I think it's been good as a whole for the most part. I think the Dodgers, at least they haven't been dominant. Yeah, I've been enjoying the season. The Padres have been good, although I have some fears for them for the second half. I think that I think baseball, I think we also saw that the home run derby is really fun. Like I think the home run derby, they really changed the rules in a way that were great and I think better for the sport. I know that there's still things that people complain about. I still think that the extra innings doubleheader or whatever you call it, the shorter 7-inning doubleheader, I think was great, but we got rid of that unfortunately. And what's another good storyline? Let me think. We had that Tommy Pham fiasco, which was
that was probably so far the storyline of the season so far.
That was wild. I will say that there's some weird stuff with like, you know, Pham has had a tough life and whatnot, and I know he seems like angry all the time and what have you, but it was a crazy story. But there is a little bit of I like that sports fans treated that story the way I think people should have treated like the Will Smith thing, where it's like, this is hilarious and dumb, move on. You don't have to make this a giant thing about society. Man, we are just letting the takes fly today, man. But like, no, in all seriousness, that's what it was without getting too deep down that rabbit hole. Yeah.
So you're pro slap?
I'm not pro slap. I'm pro having watched it. That's what I'm pro.
So you had a good time watching someone else get slapped.
I am thrilled that I saw it live. That is what I'll say.
Oh, you saw it live. Were you there?
I did. No, I wasn't there, but I saw it live. I was there for the part when everybody's like, hey, real or fake? And I was like, bro, like, not to be the media guy and whatnot, but like broadcasting, you don't go silent. You don't have the mic cut off for that long on live TV. You just don't do that. You do it for a second when someone curses. You don't do it for that long. And that's because he was cursing and yelling at Chris Rock. So they had to bleep out for like 8 seconds. But yeah, I thought it was real for the beginning and it was wild. And I am glad I saw it live.
And we needed it. I mean, it was, like you said, it was one of the biggest stories. Like, we finally had a national baseball conversation again. Like, it was probably the first time since the Astros scandal, where like every sports show around the country was actually talking about baseball, which is sad because the only other time baseball might get mentioned on like a national TV is if Shohei Ohtani has 4 grand slams and pitches a no-hitter in the same game. Right. Like that's like the only situation where baseball is getting talked about. Otherwise, it's, did the Astros cheat again, or did Tommy Pham get slapped, or did he do the slapping, vice versa? So baseball needs some more storylines for sure. I think an interesting thing for this baseball season maybe is the American League. When I look at that conference, I think the Astros and Yankees are like the only 2 teams on pace for 90 wins. Like, the American League Conference hasn't been like that dominant this year. Like, I look at the National League and I look at the teams. I like those teams a lot better. But you look at the All-Star game, it's like the American League wins the All-Star game every season. So I don't know what it is, if it's like a talent distribution thing in the American League, or is they're just more top heavy in the American League. It's pretty interesting to see the two contrasts between the two leagues, because I feel like the National League is so much deeper in terms of teams, but I kind of like the position players a lot more in the American League. Because when I look at those 2 lineups, like, you had 2 Contreras starting the National League. You got like freaking Mike Trout coming off the bench for the American League. I know that's not really what happened, but I just feel like there's so much deeper in the American League in terms of talent, but the teams are actually worse, which is like a weird contrast.
Yeah, I think that, and I think you're on point. I think that it is a little bit top heavy with the Yankees and the Astros. And there's been like some disappointing teams. I think Toronto's up there. For me, the White Sox aren't disappointing because I really genuinely kind of saw it coming. And I think that the White Sox are a good reminder. I think they're a good indicator, even for Padres listeners who have maybe disagreed with me on my takes about Soto and whatnot, that like things can flip so quickly. The White Sox were probably, I'm going to say, with the exception of the Dodgers, maybe the Astros, maybe not the Astros because they just had their whole cheating scandal, like heading into like the 2019, 2020 seasons, like the best outlook for a team in Major League Baseball, I think it was them, because you have Tim Anderson, who starts forming into a star, and he's even better this year. He finally seems to be a super duper star. He's been great. And then you have, you know, Yoan Moncada, you have Eloy Jimenez, you have Luis Robert making his debut, you have Giolito, you have Dylan Cease, you have that trade for Lance Lynn. You have so much going right. And even one last kind of okay year from Keuchel, if I'm not mistaken, in 2019. Like, I think that era of White Sox, it just shows you, they're a reminder of how quickly things can flip. They've had a lot of injuries, I understand, but there's just a multitude of things that are going wrong. They don't seem to have the same prospect capital and farm system that they once had, partially because they've been promoted to the majors, but
Mhm.
and their salary, it's not like they're the Milwaukee Brewers, right? Where they're not spending any money. Like they do have a decent payroll. So it just shows you, it is a reminder that things can flip really, really fast. And hate to be this guy, but it is not just money that makes the Dodgers so successful. It's a huge part of it. Let's make no mistake. It's like 50% or 60%, right?
It helps.
But they brought up Bellinger. I know he stinks right now, but they got Kershaw, they got Urias, they got Bueller, they got Tony Gonsolin, who was great this year. I love seeing him give up that home run, by the way. The fraud that he is. Will Smith, right? And all these guys, and Max Muncy. I know he's been a little bit bad this year, but they, and Justin Turner, and they have a lot of good stuff on that team. They had Kenley Jansen for years. It's a good farm system that's able to replenish and not be super top heavy. I would say that I don't remember the last time the Dodgers had a like top 10 in all of baseball prospect, but they've always got like a deep system behind it, so that they can refill and whatnot. So they clearly know what they're doing. And I think the White Sox, just to circle back to it, good point of these things can change, man. Even my team, the Padres, after 2020, they are the story of baseball. And I'm not saying that just as the Padres host. They are the story of Major League Baseball with Fernando Tatis, with Machado, with the Slam Diego, and literally breaking a record with the Grand Slam streak. You have the Nelson Lamet, and then you make all these trades. It shows you how quickly things can change. It's just hard to see it now, right? Because all you see is Juan Soto. Guy's a beast. And I get it. It's different. I get that he's genuinely different than some of these other guys that have been on the market. But I'm just saying, guys, the sport of baseball is freaking cruel, and it is never kind to people who rush into things, at least usually, except for maybe your 2000s D-backs, apparently, who went all in and then won and then said, see ya. You know what I mean? It did work for them. But like for the most part, man, you got to be careful with this stuff. You really do.
Yeah, and whoever, if you're trading for Juan Soto, you should be a Juan Soto piece away from being close to a championship contender or World Series contender, because Juan Soto is not going to make a difference in terms of you winning between 70 games and winning 90 plus games. Like, he's not going to be a 20-win player for you. I mean, we've seen that with the Angels, who are probably my biggest disappointment of the season, just because the way they started the year, they were at one point in that wild card race. We know about the talent on their team. I mean, Mike Trout started the season. I know I love to hate on Mike Trout, but I'll give him his flowers. The boy's a beast, and he was on fire once again to start this year. Looked like he was on his way to another MVP campaign. Ohtani started a little slow from a position player standpoint, but from a pitching perspective, like, he's right there in the Cy Young Award race this year. And even Taylor Ward has had a great season. But even with all that really good talent in the lineup, and some of their rotation members haven't even been awful this year, the Angels once again just can't get out of their own way. And it looks like as we approach the trade deadline,
I was buying into them, man. I
can't blame you.
And I never do. I think none of us do usually, but this year I said, Taylor Ward. I kind of like Brandon Marsh, and I like Jared Walsh. I think is legit good. They've regressed dramatically, and then I said, well, you have Ohtani, and then I kind of like the Syndergaard signing, and you have some other stuff, right? And I said, when they invested a lot in their bullpen, I was like, I'm not saying they're a best team in the league, but I was like, I think this finally could be the year. But maybe that was just me hoping and whatnot. And actually, Dan Zabrowski, senior writer over at Fangraphs, was like, I have to admit that I want to see the Angels acquire Juan Soto, because I'm legitimately curious if they can get 20 wins above replacement from Trout, Soto, Ohtani in 2023 and still somehow go 79 and 83, which is like the genuinely sad. It is take Dan Marino's career, but it's an organization. That's basically the Los Angeles Angels, and it is genuinely sad. And if I'm them, you really need to start thinking about
I
don't even know, though. Do you start thinking about? I started thinking about the Trout trade, which people have been talking about for years now. But do you look at this and say, Ohtani's going to be a free agent after this year? Someone's going to drive a dump truck, garbage truck, a Ferris wheel of cash to his place.
For a Billy, 3/4 of a Billy.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that
I pitch and hit.
You at least have to actually really consider it more. Or I understand if people's perspective is you just can't do that because you're not going to get the value and you're going to lose 2 Hall of Famers. So you might as well just try. No one's going to hate you for trying when you had these 2 guys, right? They'll be like, all right, we accept that we have to rebuild for another 20 years, but you have to at least just try as long as you can with these 2. But man, they were like the only team that they spend so much money, but they keep missing. They missed on Pujols. They missed on Upton. Rendon is looking like a miss. Raziel Iglesias is looking like a miss. I mean, the only contract that's kind of worked out for them is Mike Trout. Like, well, Ohtani too, but like Mike Trout, like that's the only one that like they gave the big deal, and it's killing them. Josh Hamilton, it's just I feel so bad. I know, man. I feel bad.
CJ Wilson. Did you mention him already? That was all the same summer. That was a huge summer for the Angels. That was when baseball offseason was at its peak before the lockout frenzy. That was like peak baseball. That's when the baseball offseason was just as much fun as like NBA or the NFL, because literally when you got to those winter meetings, that's when that free agency started.
I remember that too.
You just don't get that anymore in baseball. Like now winter meetings, they just come and go, and you're like, all right, I guess one reliever, Liam Hendricks signed with somebody. I guess that was fun. Like you just don't see that stuff anymore. And it was like, whoa, the guy and that guy, there's so much movement before, which is dumb. But that's a big reason why I didn't have the Angels on my list of teams I want to see Juan Soto get traded to, because I've already seen Mike Trout and Ohtani there for a long time. It's like I don't want to see Soto waste his career there too. And just on your point, like maybe the Angels should think about moving Mike Trout just because you've had him so long, and it's like you've been rebuilding with him for like a decade plus and it hasn't gone anywhere. But really, the move that needs to happen is Mike Trout pulls up his pants. He said it's time to start winning. I'm tired of losing. Go into your GM's front office and say, listen, I'm going to have to pull out my NBA trade card here, and I'm going to have to request a trade. I'm going to have to do the Kevin Durant and say, move me literally anywhere. I don't care if it's the Dodgers. I don't care if it's the Twins. I don't care if it's Kansas City Royals, because at this point in my career, any franchise is probably going to give me as good, if not better than a chance at winning than I've already had in my whole career with the Angels. So if I'm Mike Trout, I think it's time to ask for a trade. And I know baseball players don't usually do that. I mean, we saw Juan Soto. Hopefully Juan Soto setting a precedent of turning down long-term deals, because I've said a lot. I don't want to see 15-year deals. That's not fun. Like, I don't want to see a guy sign for 10 plus years. I want to be 3 to 5 year deals like basketball or football. And then you hit free agency again, and then we could talk about all those rumors and stuff and off-season stuff. So hopefully Mike Trout actually requests a trade. What do you think about that? Should Trout say, get me out of Anaheim because this place sucks and I've been losing my whole career?
I don't know if he has the personality to do that. I don't think that that's in his nature. But if he did, it would be wild, right? Like it would be wild, and it'd be chaotic for the sport. I mean, that would put another enormous player on the market. And the Angel they at least have to be thinking about it. They have to be thinking about, it's not like he's going to get better. I know he's literally a Hall of Famer already, but you think you could get a really great return for this guy. Like you really could. The Soto thing is obviously enormous too, but you could get a great return. So you have to at least think about it. Maybe you say we make this giant trade of him, and then we kind of maneuver things and build around Ohtani, maybe. But like, I'm just saying, because the Ohtani thing also has the blockbuster factor of like, do you just want to lose that presence of like the best like athlete the sport has seen in so long, right? Like, do you just want to have him on the team for the sheer factor of just being able to be relevant, right? And have people want to come to games just because of him? It remains to be seen.
How much you paying Ohtani hits the open market? What's a number you're comfortable with? 6 million, 600 million, I'm saying 500 million?
I think he cracks 500 for sure, but I don't know. Man,
because no one's basically gotten more money than Trout when he signed like that $400 million deal. That's basically been the industry standard. No one is making more than Trout. And I think Ohtani probably should, just because he does obviously both sides of the ball.
I think we're going to see, depending on the team too, because I don't know, like, because there's a universe where we don't necessarily see Ohtani doing both if he signed with a better team. Pablo Torre made this point of ESPN a while ago with that like ascending intelligence meme where it was like, oh yeah, but he's wasted on the Angels, and then it progresses, and then it's like, well, actually the Angels are so bad that it's the only team feasible, because not that they're just bad, but they also aren't in rebuild, so it's literally they need him to do both. So like it's the only team that would have been like that. If he was on the Royals right now, he'd be only hitting or maybe only pitching. They'd want to save him and whatnot, right? But that was a good point. I would.
We need both, though.
I can't wait. That's going to be huge, though. It's going to be enormous, that contract. Yeah.
We need him to do both, though. Wherever he signs, if he does leave the Angels, please. It can't stop. We got to keep him.
He will. I imagine he will, especially because it's been proven now. I just think at the beginning, especially
Yeah.
like, hey, remember like he struggled in 2020 and 2019, like he was good, but I could see a world where if he was on the Dodgers right now, they're like, actually, you're going to pitch for 2 months and then maybe every now and then we'll use you at DH, like every now and then because some guy got hurt or what have
he
you.
might
Right?
might not crack the lineup or the rotation for the Dodgers. Because
Yeah, like that. Like I could see that universe playing out because they're actually like competent organizations and whatnot.